God, thank you for bringing us together and for giving us an opportunity to be edified and encouraged by the reasons that each of us has to believe in you. We thank you for the time. We ask you to bless it, and we lift it up in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we'll start with introductions. I'm Holly. I'm always here, so I don't need to say much more than that. I will let you introduce yourself.
I'm Gianna. I'm Holly's daughter. I'm 21. I go to Wheaton College, and I'm an English writing major. So that means it's going to be hard for me to make money, but whatever. I go to a Presbyterian church, and obviously I grew up in the faith because I grew up here.
My name is Lane. I am a sophomore at college. I am a chemistry major, and I grew up in a non-denominational church, and I went to a Christian school my whole life.
Hi, I'm Kate. I am going to be a senior this year at university, and I'm a psychology major, and I've been attending a non-denominational church my whole life. So yeah, grew up in the faith.
Okay, so we'll hear how that impacts why you believe. I forget who we said. Oh, you were going to start. So let me set up the premise. At the beginning of the year, we started working in what the fancy word is apologetics, but basically it's just being able to articulate why you believe and what you believe and the veracity of it. So the first part of the year, we did a long series called Dealing with Doubt. And what we did in that series is we talked about some of the things that create doubt in us and the people around us about our faith. It was a good series. I recommend. Now we're sort of flipping that coin over, and we're talking about reasons to believe in Christianity. I think that both have a place. I really talked a lot about how doubt should be more transparent in the church, in my opinion. I think that there comes a point where you've been a Christian for a while and you don't really want to express doubts because you feel like, oh, I should know that already, or I should just have more faith. And so we really tried to make it a safe place to kind of express that there are people around me who have doubts. I sometimes have doubts because that's just the truth. We all experience that. And so, I don't know, we're just not about pretending that we don't. And so I also think that experiencing doubt and working through it can really mature your faith. And so we just had a good several conversations about, we had a lot of conversations about Jonah. That's a big one, apparently. People really have some questions about that narrative. So, but we just talked through a lot of things that cause us to doubt and how we cope with it. And so now we're just talking about, this has been a really fun series for me because it's always encouraging to hear other people's kind of testimony. This is really more of a testimony-based series, which is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. I hate to do this. I hate it. But I will say that
Plug it.
I know
Do it. Plug
it's not so much a plug. So there's a book on our website called Searching for God.
Who wrote that?
I did write this. And we're using some of this as the foundation for the things that we're talking about. We'll refer to it several times, I'm sure, because it's happened already in the series. And so that's available on the website if you're listening on another source or watching on another source. So there should be a link to that under the YouTube comments. And there's always a link to it on our website. So typically we have a different homework set. It's a PDF. This is not self-published, so I can't give it away for free. So that's a little bit different than what we normally do. But I do recommend, if you have additional questions about the things that may come up today, we'll let you know if any of those things are covered in the book. And I have referred a few times to some of the other works or some of the other collaborators, so I'll pepper that in as is appropriate. So that's sort of our foundation. Kate's back because she has a lot of reasons to believe, and so she's here for round 2. So I'm gonna let you start because I'm excited to continue to hear about your faith journey and the reasons that you have to feel confident in your faith.
Oh no, my pen.
She whips out the notebook.
Got no.
Am I allowed to
She's-
reference like the last?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, again.
We hope that people watch more than one time.
I was like, let's hope.
And if
They'll
they
have
didn't,
no
they
idea.
can always go back because that's always
Now
the
they have to go
content's always
back.
available.
So, yeah, I only have a few this time, but it's like a bigger thing. So for last time I had mentioned, actually, hopefully I did, but I think last time I mentioned that I was diagnosed with ADHD, I think summer of 2020. And then, I've always been like an anxious like kid my whole life. And like, there's just like a bunch of things that like make me anxious, but like, it was never like a big deal or anything like that. And then this past October of 2021, it got really bad to the point where I had to go home from school. And like, that's like, school is like one of my favorite places to be because it's like, that's where I can do my own things and like, you know, I can basically like living with your friends and then there's like school on the side.
It's camp.
Yeah. So that was really hard for me because I was like, I knew that I couldn't be there, and I was like begging God. I was like, please just like fix this so that I can stay here because like, not that I love my home, I love my family, but it was just like I'm here at school and like it was October and I was like, I don't know if I go home, what if I don't come back? So, and I was, you know, praying about it while I was there with like my anxiety and everything, like, cause I would just have like random anxiety attacks like throughout the day, or like maybe like a few a week. It depended on what was going on. And then I would like get over them and like I would have friends like help me. And I was like trying to find like coping mechanisms, but it never really like stuck. Like it would stick for like that like attack and then it would happen again and I would be like, oh, like I don't know what to do. And I was like, should I go home? And I was like, I don't want to go home. And then I had ordered these shoes that I'm wearing.
They're super cute.
And
Clunky ones.
my big clunky
Yay.
ones. And
Love those shoes.
I had ordered them and they weren't coming until like whenever, because it took a while to get here. And I was like, well, you know what? They were coming like the next day. I think it was a Monday or like it was Sunday and they're coming Tuesday. And Sunday was like a pretty good day for me, like anxiety wise. Like it wasn't too bad. We went apple picking. It's like an orchard. It was a lot of fun. And then I was like, okay, if I don't feel good today, like then I'll go home and then I can worry about my shoes another day. And then it came to Monday and I was like, okay, I made it to Monday. And that's when I was like, I need to go home. And my mom was already coming to give me, she uses like essential oils a lot. So she was coming to give me one for anxiety. And I don't know if I'd called her on the way there or no, I got there. She got there and I got in her car and she's like, you want to go home? And I was like, yeah. And so then my dad also came and then they took me home and, that was a really, I don't know how long I was home. Maybe like a good 2-3 weeks. And I started therapy, and then I also went to like my mom's doctor because I think the term is holistic.
Holistic.
And like natural, like he's into like natural stuff. So I wanted to like try that out and see if that worked better than starting off with like SSRIs or like any other kind of thing for it. And so those were both going well. And I really liked my therapist, and she was also Christian, which helped a lot, because she was also like, don't forget, like at the end of the day, like go to God for these problems. So I think that was also another thing, just like going to him for everything and like honestly begging, because I was like, I want to go back to school, but also I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And oh no, I don't really need this. And so that was like, I mean, it's still going strong, but like that was the strongest my relationship had been. I was like, actually, I'm gonna check my notes.
Because of the fact that you were learning to depend on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd known that like I was supposed to depend on him before, but it was kind of like, for me, I'd mentioned also like the last time, like there are people that have like their amazing like testimonies where he like God brought them back from like drugs and addiction and like other like terrible situations. And like I never had that. And this was kind of like, that was my like big thing that had happened to me. And like still to this day, I'm like super thankful to him, and like just it's helped like my trust in him, and like really, because I always trusted God, but it was like I really had to depend on him and trust him in that time. And like I still do with it. Like I still have like little things that like make me anxious and can like set me off, but like I know now.
Can you tell me what that looks like practically? Like, I feel like this, and then I do this, and how that helps you have a stronger faith.
I can't think of one from like then that much, but just like recently, if I feel anxious, I just like keep repeating in my head like God's got me, like I'm good, and like I just kind of like trust in him. And then also like I have like things from therapy, like breathing techniques and stuff like that I use. But that's like the biggest thing, is just to remember that like no matter what, like God's got my back. And that was like a big thing that got me through all of this. And like I still like trust in him to this day, and like still use that whenever I like feel, and also just in general, like not even just when I feel anxious, like whenever I'm in a situation that would, well, any situation really calls for that. But
yeah. So one of the things that we talked about, thanks for sharing that. That was really vulnerable. I appreciate you. I didn't know that happened. One of the things that we talked about with the last two groups was how sometimes people discount personal experiences because they feel subjective, or because of psychology and whatever, people feel like, oh, that's all in your head. And that's really difficult for me that frustrates me, because I feel like, I don't know, like you wouldn't do that about anything else that someone was personally experiencing, you know? People just do it when it comes to faith and the supernatural, because they just have a presupposition that they don't want to buy into that. And I think that personal testimonies like what you're sharing actually can be the most impactful. Like, I think that from a, I don't know, building blocks standpoint, I used her words. Some people would think, okay, I have to build, and listen, it's good to build a system. I love systematic theology. It's good to build a system. But you can't forget about the heart and the experiential things that happen as a result of having faith and having a relationship with God. And so I just wanted to kind of draw that out a little bit, because people can have faith in a lot of things and they can help. You know, you can have faith in breathing techniques and that can help. You can have faith in yoga and that can help. But it's really about the relationship that you have with God that sustains. And that's what I was kind of trying to tease out. Like, you're not just saying a mantra, God has got my back. You've experienced God having your back, and it's relational. And so I just wanted to, maybe, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I just think that in order to kind of support what you're saying, I want to make sure that we kind of talk that through. It's that it's relational, that it's not just, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can believe in a lot of things. I can believe that, I don't know, burning a candle, you know, makes this bad spirits go away. I don't know. I don't even know. But this isn't just something I choose to believe and I talk myself into it. This is a give and take with the Creator. And obviously it's really hard to describe if you're not in a relationship with him, but can you just, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you talk a little bit more about that? Because I don't want it to come across like, oh, well, she's just drinking the Kool-Aid and it's good that it works for her, because a lot of what we
like
hear,
a placebo effect.
Yeah. Thank you. That's perfect. The placebo effect is a great way to describe it. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm glad you found something that works for you, but that's not my truth. Right. So like all of that. And I would like, if you can, and we can come back to you if you want to process what I'm saying. But I think when we share our testimony, it's helpful for people to really understand what we're experiencing from a give and take, not just from a, this is what I believe and it helps me. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was articulating that very well at all.
Yeah, so just I had mentioned in the last one that I did that it was started with like my prayer life and also reading the word, that I didn't have like a relationship with him, and that's why I had doubts like when I was younger. And then I realized that it was a relationship instead of like you. Sometimes when I was younger, I would think like praying was like a list. Like you had, of course, like with prayer requests too, like people would write them down in like a list, and like there's a list you had to like go through, and making sure like not to forget anything. But it's just like then I started like the transition of like, oh, God remembers, like even if you forget, so like it's okay. And then also then from that transition of like listing off things, like which is like you can still list things off when you pray, but like if it's just like I need to get through this list, like that's not how it works. So then starting to just like talk to God, kind of like he's in the room, and then also, you know, praying for those things that were like in the list of things that you had to pray for. And I think that's where it started, like my relationship. And then realizing that it was like a give and take of like, yes, you do like have to pray for these things, but it's not like if you forget something, it's going to be horrible. Because like he remembers. And I think that's where my relationship really started, because it was just like, okay, I'm just going to talk to God. And then if I forget something, he'll remember. And then, and also a lot of times when I would be like just talking to him, I'd be like, oh, like I remember this. And then also just, then I started with like the trust aspect of that.
So it really, if I'm hearing you right, not to interrupt, but it evolved from, I wonder if that happened to either of you growing up in the church, like to where it felt like it's a to-do list versus it's a relationship. But that's what I'm hearing you say. And I think that's really helpful because, and I love what you said about like just talking to God like he's in the room, because he is. Yeah, and different people do different things. Like as I'm getting older, during my prayer time, I used to be able to like remember everything that I wanted to pray, but then like my mind goes, I just get distracted and I'm like, what was I even praying about? Like I'm starting to like write my prayers so that I can like stay focused, and everybody does it in a different way. I'm not writing it because I feel like it's homework. I'm doing it because it's like a journal that I'm just like,
Yeah, I do that.
walking
Like, I
through
write
with
my prayers
God.
down.
Yeah. So I wonder, did that happen to either of you? Just the transition from, is that what you're saying? You experienced a transition from like a to-do list or a set of rules into this is a relationship, and it's really about the relationship first. And then there are actions that flow out of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You can speak to either of those things, or you can do your own thing. Do you want to go next, or do you want Gianna to go next?
Yeah, I definitely experienced that. It's sort of like a, you know, bless mommy, bless daddy, bless Sophia. And then like, you know, like literal, I was too old to be literally having like that kind of list, but I did that for a while. And I think I remember that my list got up to like 16 different things. But, yeah. And then like the way that I did it, my transition from, you know, shopping list of blessings to actually just talking is I would get the blessing stuff out of the way. I would pray that. And then I'd be like, okay, now we can talk. Like, I know I have to do that. And then eventually I was like, oh, I don't have to do that. Like, he knows what I need, and he knows what the people around me need. And yeah, of course, praying for stuff as they come up. If someone's sick or if someone's like struggling with something, obviously you can pray for them as many times as you want. But I was like, I don't have to get through, like, there's not like a list of formalities that I have to get through in order to have a conversation with God. Can I ask you a question, Kate? Where did the shoes come into the story? Because you talked about the shoes.
I realized I didn't make that connection.
And I was like, I'm
I
so
was
happy
thinking
if
that
we're
too.
just
I was
calling
like,
attention to those shoes, because they're phenomenal shoes. Hold them up for the camera, please. Yeah. But I was like, well, why is she talking about the shoes?
I forgot to like mention that. So that was one of the reasons I was going to stay, because I was like, okay.
That's how I received
sounds
it.
like something I
That's
would
how I
do.
got
Okay,
it. She was
okay.
like, the shoes were like a marker where she was like, let me get to the time.
Let me
Yeah.
get my shoes,
Yeah.
and then I can go home.
But then I went home
But you
literally the
didn't
day
even get the
before.
shoes.
But yeah, I had
How'd
my
you
friend
get
get
the
them. So it
shoes?
was fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went back, and then I got them.
I think that's a normal mechanism. Like when you're in a
No, it
difficult
is. Yeah,
time to put
absolutely.
like small milestones in place. Yeah, that's how I received it. But I'm glad you
I just
pulled
wanted
that
to
thread
clarify.
back. I appreciate that.
And
Okay.
I also wanted to highlight the shoes once more.
Yeah, the shoes are great. Did you experience that with growing up in the church? Did you experience a transition of what you were taught versus what you embraced?
I think I did, but for me, I actually think it happened when I was very young. Like, I remember, like, maybe, like, 3rd grade. Like, I remember that happening for me. And, like, I don't know. I just feel like it was always, like, said, like, at my church, like, over and over again that, like, it's, like, a relationship. Like, this isn't, like, a list of rules you have to follow. Like, it's about, like, God, and it's Jesus. He loves you, and he wants you to, like, talk to him and, like, be a part of your life. And I don't think that I ever really dealt with, like, feeling like it was just, like, a list of things that I had
That's
to do.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's a pretty common experience for children of the church to feel like this is just part of my behavioral.
Yeah.
Guidelines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good word. Behavioral handbook. Yeah, yeah. So that's really good. Hi, I'm Holly, and I'm the primary teacher and author here at Study with Friends. My education is from a Reformed theological seminary, so you'll see that come through as we teach and study together. But on occasion, I'll introduce concepts from other doctrines when I think they shed light on the material, just so that we can have a well-rounded understanding of lots of different perspectives on the text. We strongly believe that you should know and understand who's teaching you the Bible. And so you can learn more about me at studywithfriends.org or zondervan.com. We're just really glad you're here.